Welcome back to the Executive Outlook. Today's guest has built data functions from the ground up across some of the most exciting companies in Brazil and Europe. He is a chief data officer and he started his career at one of the largest financial institutions, ITAU, before joining iFood, Brazil's biggest food delivery platform, where he grew the data teams from 1% to 35 in just 4 years. He also holds a PhD in business administration with a focus on data science and platform economics. He also teaches at Nova IMS in Portugal. Welcome to the Executive.
Thank you, Isha, for the welcome and the space to be here talking to you.
So I'm very excited for the conversation. Yeah. So let's start with your journey, how you came into the data field, what got you so deep in the world of data, and you are working with some of the best organizations right now.
I can say it was just luck. I guess in the beginning of the career, the luck has a percentage of influence in the field you choose. But I built all my career and in the organizations that cares about data. I always want to focus in how turns data into decision. So overview of my background from the academic side, my bachelor's is economics, then a master in business strategy and recently PhD in data science with focus on platform economics. So I'm not the tech guy, I'm more for the human side. And the professional side, I've been working with data for 15 years now. Mm-hmm. And during this time, I have lived different types of organizations and went through many waves. Like starting when my beginning of my career, 2010, was the big cloud, then the cloud data platform, then the machine learning, then the streaming data, ML ops, more recently generative AI, and now we are going through the Agentic AI wave. So each wave was shorter than the previous one. And in this scenario, I guess this academic side helped me in two specific ways to go deeper in data. The first one is the patient. So the PhD teaches you to sit with a question for months, to separate what you want to believe from what the data is actually saying to you. So that's discipline. It's impossible to have in a corporate world. And second, separate signal from the noise. Every week come up a new model, a new framework, a new buzzword. And in the academic, in the research, you face the same flood of information, thousands of papers about a specific topic, and you have to pick the good ones and stay with it for your research. The job of a data leader today is the same as a job of a research. Pick the few things that matter and ignore the rest. There's a lot of noise in the market right now. There's a reason why I stay in this field. The problems of data, I guess, not finished yet. And what I mean by this is that if you go to organization and ask 3 questions, the first one, do the numbers in the executive board match the numbers of the operational dashboards? 2, can you trace the important KPIs from the source all the way to the CEO slides? And 3rd, do people actually trust the dashboards they are using? Usually, across all organizations, all the 3 answers will be no. They don't trust the data. So while everyone is chasing the next wave, the foundation is still leaking, I guess. And that is the gap I find to tackle. And that's why I keep coming back to data.
Amazing. And you mentioned a very important problem here that organization does not trust data, right? But in your opinion, what is the right way, or as a data experts, what we should be doing in order to make sure they trust their data?
Let's talk about governance, I guess. The only way a company can trust the data, it's the data is following some rules. And we call these rules governance, the corporate word. And when you say governance, people usually frame this governance as something that's boring, something that is for the legal guys, something that is not their daily jobs. But I push back on this topic. I guess governance has more a public relations, a PR problem, than a substance problem itself. There's a cycle I have seen like 3 or 4 times already in my career. The CEO and the board want to check some buzzword cards, like that's called buzzword cards. A few years ago, the card was, we need to hire data science. Then we need to have a chief data officer. Then we are an AI first company. So today we have a new business cards that we have Agentic AI in production, but no one cares about the card. Our data to feed the agent is good enough. has good quality. Usually is the same low quality data that we talk about, the dashboards and the KPIs, is the data that is feeding this new probabilistic decision making system on top of this foundation that the humans already do not trust. So to make it more practical, let's separate some things. Like first point, if the company does the homework, creates the governance and pipelines and everything, even with fewer agents than the competitions, the agents will produce better outcomes, a better answer to the customers, fewer expensive mistakes, fully auditable, and so I guess it's a real competitive advantage for the company. Like having this new technology, the agentic technology, being generate value, real value for the business, not just as a number in some presentations, some dashboards. The second part is that governance is not just about documents. So you can like a lot of documents, procedures, policies inside your company, and you can also have trash data at the same time. So this trust in data does not come alone with just policies. Governance, what I trust is that governance is really about humans. Companies are made of people, and even when those people have the best intentions, their personal definition of organized, right things varies a lot. So without a shared lean written rules, you end up in a chaos. The governance I defend is the opposite of the heavy compliance that people usually think. A short set of rules, people can actually read it. They explain why these rules exist. For example, we can say about the data contracts in the boundaries between systems. It's something that's simple to implement, knowing what should be sent from one system to the other, frequency, number of data points, and so it's something that can be created in an easy way in the organization and can create some value and improve the quality of data. Your ownership of every critical data set. Lineage checks, quality checks that fail loud instead of fail signs. There's companies implementing like the mandatory controls and don't see it at all. And what you see, like especially in Europe, that is really regulated. This is not optional. The GDPR, the PSD2 that's moved to PSD3, the regulator for sure will ask every company who made which decision, which data you base this decision, where is this data, which customer was affected by this decision. If you cannot answer these questions, you have a huge problem with the regulator of your country. And if you don't have this problem, you have an advantage over your competition. Said my belief is that market is has really low quality data. To summarize, for me, governance is not the brake of the organization. Governance is the seat belt that lets you drive faster. Good data quality information for the dashboard, for the Agent API, for anything you want to do.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So, at one of the organization in your past, I think it's iFood, where you have grew from a data team for a 1% to 35 persons in 4 years. So, what does that journey look like, and what was the hardest part of building a data function from nothing inside a growing startup?
It's a good question. I guess that the hardest part is not the technology itself. Most people think that you need to know a lot of technology. You need to know Python, you need to know SQL, you need to know a lot of things. So you can create the data and you can put the data to work. I don't see it this way. I guess that, like, for example, in iFood that you said that was experienced growing a team almost from zero to a complete team. Pretty much filter being built from scratch, not like just the technology or people hiring. The lessons I took from the hard parts, not the technology. Working in a cloud native company that's growing a lot, the technical side is pretty much easy. So the company has money, the cloud providers are happy to help, and there's no legal mainframes to deal with like these problems that big companies have. So when people ask me what the bottlenecks was during this journey in iFood, it was never tech. I guess that the two real challenges were both humans. The first one was creates the buy-in from the company, the C-level, the partners, the other areas, and even the team. Even if you build the most beautiful churn model in the world, somebody else has to use the results. Because I like to say that data is not a revenue center, it's a cost center. So we do not generate revenue by ourselves. The success of the data teams is always dependent on the other teams that trust us. And trust is not built like with a slide deck or something that is really quick. It's built one project at a time with concrete results and with the alignment of language. Like usually data teams are more techy and do not talk the business language. The way I did it was through incentives. As I said, I'm an economist, so this is how I think, create incentives through people. So we took the company business goals, like orders, revenues, recent retention, and replicated these goals to inside the data team. And suddenly the data team was not a services center anymore. Running tickets, we were partners with shared skin in the game. Like somebody working data, you are not somebody outside the organization. You need to be in the game. Other thing I would like to share, the second challenge was hiring. The technical bar, like how deep you know a language, how good you are building a model, it's something that is easy to define. And what I always look for a candidate, it's what I call the airport test. If I had to travel with this person and we missed the connection flight and we were stuck in the airport like for 8 hours, would that person make those 8 hours better or worse? If I'm not sure, I do not hire this person. My 2 cents to someone that is building a data team from zero would be those two topics. Spend less time chasing the fancy technology, spend more time in chasing the people and the alignment of incentives.
Great. Thank you so much. So nowadays, a lot of AI, specifically in the agentic AI, projects have been working on in different organizations. However, there's another prediction by Gartner that 40% of the agentic AI projects will be cancelled by 2027 because they don't have the clear ownership. So what do you think that why these numbers surprise you, and what should the organization do in order to fix before it's too late? This is an agentic AI perspective. Right now, what AI agents can do. But you are always asking a different question: who actually owns the data that agents consume and produce? So why is this question so important to you and nobody is really talking about?
For me, this question it's important. I keep rising every discussion. And usually people look at me like I'm being annoying about this, but I guess this is a really, really good question. So I guess from my perspective, the real strategy, AI wave are not the model, the agent itself. The models, the agents, the providers are becoming more commodity. So the open source alternatives are competitive with the frontier, most expensive solutions. From my perspective, the real strategic asset is the data flowing through the agents, the proprietary context, the interaction history, the decisions that get made. That is what creates value. And that is what is hard to replicate from one company to the other. Traditional software and traditional AI usually use deterministic models, and agents are probabilistic. So what does this mean? Like more than statistics, it means that they reason, they infer, they sometimes hallucinate, and so with this we have 2 consequences. The first one is the quality of the input data that drives the quality of the output. So much more than in classical software, it happens in classical AI. This happens in agentic AI because the one problem is compounded once the one agent talks to the other, talks to the other, talks to the other. So a problem is being compounded over time and over interactions. And 2, the output may be wrong. So who is responsible for correcting it, the output of an agent? Nobody has a clear view of this today. And most companies do not have a clean data ownership even before the agents. So giving you an example, if you go to a bank and ask who owns the customer data, the commercial, because they sold the products to the people, The operational, because they provide the services. The accounting, because they create the statements. The marketing, because they create the segmentation models. The answer is all of these people and none of these people are the owners of the data, which means that nobody's accountable when things go wrong. Now you put a layer of agents on top of this, and this becomes more complex. And to create more complex, we can say that about MCP, the model context protocol that Anthropic released a year and a half ago. Essentially, it's like a USB-C for AI. It's a one standard plugin that the agents can talk to your CRM, to your email, Slack, your system files. And it was adopted by the major companies, OpenAI, Google, DeepMind, Microsoft, and the Linux Foundation. Now, with the MCP protocol, the data flow into agents in a more accelerated and dramatic way, but there's no regulation at all on this data flow. So, summarize, now we have trash data, and we can easily put this trash data inside the agent. And from my perspective, the public debate around the agents is missing. We talk about automatization, we talk about orchestration, about productivity, about whether the agent finish or not the task. But I guess the deeper question is who owns the intelligence of the agent is creating from the data that is consumed. That one is not buried on the table. It's not always a problem. There's something that is good that is emerging from the side that I find really interesting. That is the Sovereign Context Protocol, the SCP. It's not the Sporting Club in Portugal. It's a protocol for agentic governance. A recent paper proposed it as an open attribution layer between large language models and human-generated content. So every access is logged, license, it's traceable. If the set that the MCP is the USB-C for the AI, the SCP, the Sovereign Context Protocol, is the passport for the data to the agentic world. And I believe that this is the direction the conversation needs to go. Not how many agents do you have in production, but who owns the intelligence of those agents that those agents are creating, and who is accountable when things go wrong.
Okay. And that is much more important because the responsibility, the ownership, the clear, the name for that industry, that, okay, this is something you are owning. You have to make sure the responses should be right as you are utilizing AI, so that that person should be accountable, and we can improve the responses if anything goes wrong, so we can improve on that. So you have a very interesting framework that every piece of data an agent touches should have the four principles, four candidate honors: the principal, the agent, platform, and the regulator. So can you walk us through a very simple terms and why most companies are only thinking about one of them?
Let's start explaining what you call these four candidates. The first one, you said the principal is the original owner of the data. It can be the consumer, the employee, the partner, the company itself. This is the traditional answer. We collect the data, we own the data. This worked for decades. It's how GDPR is built. But today it's only one piece of the picture that you have. And two, the agent. This may sound strange because an agent is not a legal person, but operational. When an agent interacts with thousands of customers, it creates something new. It creates memory, it creates patterns, decisions, derivative of this intelligence. So the raw data may belong to the principal, but this derivative intelligence does not. As we talked in the previous question, who owns this derivative data? The company, the model provider, the team that is fine-tuning the system. So today the answer is unclear, and this ambiguity will be the major source of conflicts in the coming year, especially in the regulatory field. European Union and the governments do not know how to deal with this or to make this not legal or not real persons accountable for something. The third candidate, the platform, I guess is the hiding power layer. Can be the cloud provider, the LLM provider, the orchestration framework. And when a company closes a contract with this provider, even the contract says your data belongs to you, the platform still see the prompt, still see the telemetry information, the patterns used. So we have seen this move before. Search engine or networks, app stores, they become really powerful because they sit in the middle of the information flow. So they do not own this information, but they see everything. And AI agent platform will amplify this effect. And lastly, fourth, the regulator. Technology tends to underestimate this one. We don't say the regulator is the owner. The regulators regulate the owner usually. But when you say that in some locations, especially in Europe, certain data rights are non-transferable, that means that there are not contractual assets you can negotiate. Even if the user, the company, and the platform all agree, the regulator can still prohibit something, direct some actions. So the regulation is the de facto co-owner of the rules that govern AI that generates intelligence. So why do companies most only think about the first one, the principle? Because I guess their mental model is still in the pre-AI era. Usually people say customers, data belongs to the customers or to us. That's work with when data is something you store, but agents do not store data. They accumulate intelligence, they infer, they recombine things, they decide. So the single owner assumptions breaks under this load of interactions we have.
That's a very different perspective. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. So I want to take this last question because this is very interesting. That Gartner is predicting that 40% of the agentic AI projects will be cancelled by 2027 because of the poor governance and unclear ownership. Does that number surprise you, or what do organizations need to fix before it's too late?
This is a good statistic and a good question. Honestly, 40% do not surprise me. If I had to bet, that the real number should be higher. This Gartner prediction come out in June of last year, 2025, with a survey around 3,000 or so organization. And the reason for this number that they see there three. They see this achieve this 40% are escalating, unclear business value, and adequate risk control. And they also coined the expression that I find really useful, that is agent washing. So that means that vendors rebranding existing chatbots or RPA tools as agents to ride this wave, but it's not artificial intelligence, it's not generative AI, it's just automation from the real problem, in my view, it's on the demand side. Most companies starting agentic AI projects today are doing it because the board asked to, because the competition said that they are doing something, because they have a fear of missing out attached to the share price. So the agent is the answer for everything today, and nobody has clearly defined the questions for the agent. So if you ask me what companies need to fix, I see two things. The first one, stop chasing vanity metrics. The number of tokens consumed, the number of agents in production, the number of use case launched, none of these KPIs are real outcomes. The reason to build an agent is to solve a real problem, a problem that you have today and has a cost, has an inefficiency attached to it, or has a human error happen. If the team is building the agent that cannot articulate the problem in one sentence in business language, the project will fail for sure. It does not matter how good the technology is or how good the data science in your company are. And the second topic is regarding governance. We talked a lot about this, but I will come back to this topic, the governance. Garbage in, garbage out. The academic research on agents' performance should make every executive more conscious. The public conversation is, in my way, too optimistic about this technology. Two numbers regarding what is said in academia that I guess it's worth sharing. The first one is on test completion. Depending on the benchmark, real deployments show failure rates from 70 to 95%. Most of the time, the agent does not finish the job that was asked to the agent. And later I can share the links for the sources. It's not like make up numbers. And the second number, it's worth sharing. It's on self agent correction. Mm-hmm. It's like when you ask or program the agent to correct itself. This one I find most concerning because agents identify their own mistakes only about 11% of time on some benchmarks, and we cannot rely on the agents to know when it is wrong. We need to keep the human in the loop, and this creates a lot of other problems. For example, work overload and so. But it's not the talk right now. But we cannot believe in the agent for the full-time automation of a process. We have to design the system, assuming that the agent does not know it's not going to be right. Putting all this together, all this 4% cancellation rate looks generous. So without governance, without a clear problem definition, without observability, your scaling is going to fail. And you are taking this 30% reliability is the difference from the 70% I talked before. You take this 30% reliability and try to make this the backbone of your operation. It's not going to work well. So closing my message to the executives is this: that do not worry about this 4% that Gartner said that's going to be cancelled. Worry about the 6% that survive without governance, without ownership, and all the things. Those are the ones that will create the real damage in your organization, production, and with real customers. So this is what you need to worry about.
I think that's such really, really insightful sharings that you have shared. And I think those were the questions. I know I had more questions to ask, but we are at time almost. But I really enjoyed the discussion. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, your thinking on the governance, especially around the AI agents and ownership. So these are the conversations that every leader needs to have it and to listen it and to implement it right now. And you have made the points over there for these important topics. Thank you so much for sharing that, and it's a pleasure to have you here on the executive.
Thank you for the time and space, Isha, and I hope I could share something that is usable for the companies.
Yes, definitely. So a lot of great learnings. Thank you so much.